Salam, Queen of Queens, Phoenix Ramadan, Jackson, welcoming you back to the light of BRAZEERA Cyber Network. Joyous full moon in Cancer and jolly winter solstice. Season's greetings as well. Tonight's Jackson's Aries green light Cancer full moon video conversation is regarding transcending the spiritual veil. So let's go right in behind the veil. So, the fire, it's time for it's between fire and ice, right? The full moon, or the full moon and the winter solstice, right? This time is between fire and ice, the full moon in Cancer and the winter solstice. The cosmos is, I don't want to start over, but I'll say the cosmos is the red pill. It is time for the red pill or the blue pill, right? Fight between fire and ice. Choose between fire and ice. Are you going to stay at the south node, unconsciousness rather, or transcend, ascend, and rise to your higher consciousness and be the best you can ultimately be, right? So, do you pilgrimage consciously high, or does humanity pilgrimage unconsciously low? Which consciousness will your humanity choose? How now that the path is divinely clear? Will your humanity allow fear to choose its eternal destiny? Consciously pilgrimaging toward the North Node, humanity will consciously feel the hot solstice passion embedded at home. Settle for less than that, then what is universally complete awareness is a pilgrimage toward South Node. And humanity certainly will sense the petrifying fear of feeling all alone, vulnerable, consciously all alone, and in the depths of conscious darkness. It is time to be consciously complete, right brain, left brain wholeness, reborn, resurrected consciously, and regain your crown consciousness, your telepathic connection to the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, regain that consciousness robbed from humanity after the conscious fall of your beautiful, beautiful black carbon father, Adam, when he was perfectly created in the seventh heaven. Humanity, it is time to consciously awake. Pilgrimage away from the demonic creatures dwelling behind a veil of human unconsciousness. They are acting and hiding in secrecy. They are known as gooks, ghosts, wahab goblins, jinn or demons, shadow beings. They conceal themselves in the dream time beyond humanity's physical consciousness. The ill creatures teleport and telepathically conspire to convey their negative, vile, wicked imagery and synergy to all humanity. They do so for the absolute demise of all your humanity. While humanity must not dwell in fear of such alien beings to this dimension. Okay? So humanity must not dwell in fear of such vile, non-benevolent watchers of humanity. Humanity must remain consciously home or return consciously home to their Christ-like consciousness, in order that they may protect themselves from such ill-will telepathic communications. That is the focus and the warning of the South Node in Capricorn, to take heed and follow the high path to universal wholeness, universal consciousness. Okay? Jackson, Global Pride, a royal purple kingdom. 52 is centered on divine consciousness, a divine consciousness of reality. Okay? Because reality is fragmented between tangible consciousness and intangible consciousness. Okay? Absolute reality is fragmented between that which is physically consciously visible and that which is consciously visible to the mind's eye. Only the mind's eye, only the mind's eye of intelligence and divine, as received through divine inspiration, or the pineal gland, that especially opens during sleep. Okay, during the unconscious, the physically unconscious state of, the mind or the body. Thus, human consciousness or the human psyche is fragmented between a state of physical wake time and physical sleep time. And although in reality, time is one multi-dimensional expansive continuum, and both physical sleep and physically awake is one, time is the illusion in the mind. The mind is synergy, and the mind never rests as the physical body does. Thus, the mind never sleeps. Jinn, gooks, ghosts, and Wahhabi goblins, shadow beings, dwell, and cooperate to conspire to conceal themselves from behind unconscious veils of secrecy, or in secrecy, in secrecy. They seek to covertly conceal themselves from the human's physical conscious mind and attempt to cause panic, fear, trauma, and repression to the human psyche should the human consciousness ever attempt to awaken consciously to their consciousness, to the consciousness of complete life. Okay, okay, that's fine. And let's do it again. Okay. So they want humanity to live in fear, and want them to panic. Okay, and live in fear of them. Okay, live in fear of shadow beings and what they can do. Okay. So they cause panic, fear, and trauma, in order to repress the human psyche, should the human consciousness attempt to awaken to the consciousness of life within the intangible aspect of cosmic life. They do consciously exploit and terrorize humanity and use dehumanized souls from the physically intangible world, from the physically tangible world of consciousness, to also exploit humanity from the unconscious veiled dimension of cosmic time. Terror is used to deceive, divide, and, as I said, terrorize humanity, into doing their ill will in the physical conscious realm of space-time continuum, that they may master the soul of all humanity. South Node in Capricorn, with Saturn in its home constellation, and Pluto is guiding. They are guiding humanity away from such ill-fated negativity, alter ego that is terrorizing humanity through their unconscious state of being. With the North Node in Cancer draws humanity's attention toward divine Christ consciousness, illuminated by the North Node in the, especially during the summer solstice. All right? Okay. So, rather than de-escalate, the violence on Earth in order to accommodate these more peaceful times, those who seek to follow those shadow beings and their ill will, such as the Rothschild Vatican Nazi Wahhabist, they have simply realigned it. So the pulling out of Syria, which is nice, by the way, it's very good. It's very good. But what they're trying to do is realign their forces because, as the video stated, Turkey is getting very upset with the Trump's regime in supporting the Kurdish rebels that are, at war with the Turks. So, and the Turkish government warned the Trump regime that he should pull those American soldiers out of harm's way so that they could, be safe during the time when the Turkish decide to strike at the Kurdish rebels. But, so that is why the Trump is pulling the soldiers out of Syria and that region. And complaining that, ISIS, stating that ISIS has been defeated, when in reality, that ISIS was created by the American regime. So, of course they can control ISIS. ISIS is their force, just like the Saudi Wahhabis are their force, just like Saudi Wahhabis and the Zionists conspired and that are occupying Palestine are, they cooperated to enact 9/11 in America so that Americans would be traumatized and declare war and call for war so adamantly, and in doing so they would strike those threats to, not threats, but those whom the Zionists that are occupying the Holy Land of Palestine would strike those Arab nations and do basically the Zionist bidding. So the Zionists that are occupying Palestine did 9/11 to make their, to make America go to war with, or destroy those Arab nations, such as they did Iraq, such as they wanted to do Syria, such as they want to do Iran, and they still have Iran on their plate. So, that is why America or the drums pulled them out of Syria. To pull the troops out of Syria. As I said, because the Turkish government is angry because the drums regime is supporting the Kurds while the Kurds fight the Syrians. So because the Kurds are promised a homeland, or promised land, right, where they can establish their own a territory, their own nation, right? Well, they have a nation, but establish their own territory, right? So they're fighting for the Trump regime and in order to get their own home land, right? Just like World War II and the Rothschilds took over Palestine, if America was promised Palestine by the British, if they brought America in to fight in World War II, and the Rothschild brought America in. The Rothschilds brought America in to fight in World War II, and as a reward, they were given the Rothschilds were given Palestine, and that's the problem that is occurring right now in Palestine. After the British, they were occupying Palestine, and so they promised to transfer the land that they were occupying over to the Zionist Rothschilds, and that is what, as I said, the problem is today. So they're the ones who are continuing to escalate the violence. They just want to realign, and realign through what? trying to bring the African nations on board with them. The Trump regime trying to bring the African nations, get the African nations involved with this big global Holocaust, right? All for the sake of securing Palestine, the Holy Land, right? And taking over Africa because of they're concerned about the global electromagnetic shift that's going to have a grave toll on America, most Western nations, right? And the ones that are going to survive, the land is going to survive, basically is going to be Africa and Australia, and very few other nations, right? So they're concerned about that. So they want to, the Zionists want to migrate and take over Africa and probably Australia too. So that, and if African nations are wise, they would not get involved in that crap. Don't get involved in this South Node bullshit crap, okay? Because that is the real problem, okay? You were recolonized once, you don't want to be colonized again, okay? So you better, and they want to steal the natural resources too, right? Because those would be the only natural resources, right? So, and leave everybody else out to dry. And that's what you have with the taking over Syria, taking over, and the big migrations into Europe and other parts of the world. Okay, but we'll continue with that in a minute. Okay, so they want to escalate the violence and they want to realign themselves, right? That's why they took the troops out of Syria as a realignment, right? Okay, so the insurgence of violence into the celestial global alignment of the human consciousness was the same false flag. So now you see, okay, because now there's a global change or a shift in consciousness, right? Where the humanity doesn't want war. It's the Zionists that want war because they want to take over the world, right? Humanity doesn't want war because humanity wants to work, together, unite, so that they can be prepared for this global shift, this electromagnetic shift. When they have the pole shift, right? They want to work together so that they can do their best to survive, right? But they want to do it peacefully, right? So these Zionists, right? They want to, the Rothschild Vatican Nazis. I'll just call them Nazis, which stands for Zionist nationalist, right? The Zionist nationalist, okay? They want to escalate the violence through their realignment, and they want to do it with to interfere with the peaceful movement that's going on for global among humanity and the unity that's going on among humanity, and the humanity's move away from racism and all these type of things, all these type of isms, right? They're moving away from that. So the Zionist nationals want to disrupt that move, right? So they put insurgents of violence, right? Which you see a destruction of property and things like that. Okay, that have emerged among the Yellow Jackets. Okay, they have emerged among the Yellow Jackets, but humanity must not, follow that lead, that South Node consciousness of violence or destruction of property, right? Okay, so the insurgence of violence into the celestial global alignment of human consciousness was the same false flag attempt used to quell the global unity and spiritual ascension during the Arab Spring in 2011. The insurgence of violence is the insurgence of violence and destruction of property was an entrapment used to reinstall martial law and military rule among most Arab nations, and they want to do the same, play the same game on the movement in the West, right? By, created an insurgence of violence among, the movement of the Yellow Jackets, right? So, and it's an entrapment, right? And as I said, an entrapment to quell the emergence of the rising consciousness and the global awakening, placing, and what it did to the Arab, Spring was it placed them in greater economic disparity and physical vulnerability. More than physical violence, conscious global unity places the greatest threat to the Antichrist German Nazi Vatican. Global conscious unity is the day and nightmare of the Antichrist commercial culture of death. It is already paranoid, which is why gun control, as we spoke of before, is the #1 priority to be implemented, right? Okay, rather than call for nuclear disarmament to make the world safer, if they want to make the world safer, all they got to do is declare nuclear disarmament. Okay, turn the weapons into plowshares, right? As stated in the Christ consciousness, right? Turn weapons into plowshares, especially during the time of the global magnetic shift, right? When all of humanity is going to have to return to living off the earth, right? So therefore, they are going to need as much tools to, you know, to reinvest in agriculture, right? As it was done during the old days, right? Okay, during the more, you know, more past times. Okay, and so nuclear disarmament will make the world a safer place and work together as nations should. It will make it a much safer place. Humanity, so, and that will make it a safer place for all humanity. And rather than do that, they call for gun control to be implemented to protect themselves and their fascist culture of death from all humanity. Now, as stated, during the past in the West, when you know, most men carried, you know, guns on their hip, when they called it the Wild Wild West, you know, they kept a gun in their home to protect their family. And, you know, people, they didn't go hog wild, you know, shooting up their neighbors and things like that. Neighbors killing neighbors was very rare. So in the wild, in the West, or in any nation that is, you know, not a police state, you know, having the right to bear arms or the right to protect oneself is a sovereign man's right, right? It's his divine right. It's what the Declaration of Independence was all about. So we're going to go to video